Hello, everybody. How are you? It is a nice rainy day here. Hello, Linda. Hello, hello. Okay, everybody's jumping on. Perfect. All right, announcements. So tomorrow there is not going to be a live. Okay. We have half of our staff going to some training, and the other half of our staff is going to be setting up at Quilt-A-Fair for the weekend. So our stores are going to be bare bones, and so therefore we do not quite have enough people to run live. So again, no live tomorrow. Thursday, Friday should be back to regular scheduled programming. Essentially. Okay. So if you try to find us tomorrow, we shall not be there. Okay. And then also our normal schedule would have been tomorrow being our Baby Lock Club. And that got changed because of said schedule. So Baby Lock Club is going to be pushed back 1 week. So that should be on October 1st for September's Baby Lock Club. So you'll get double exposure, I guess, in October. And then on Saturday, we have Floriani Club, which is a virtual club taught by our lovely Miss Nancy. And then on the 29th, which is next Monday, we do have the decorative Surge tote bag that Kate will be teaching, also done as a virtual class. So that is awesome. And hopefully you guys are excited for that. But then again, wanted to mention that we do have Quilt-A-Fair this weekend. So it's Thursday through Saturday, and it is at the Boulder County Fairgrounds, which is actually in Longmont. And hopefully if you are coming, you stop by and see us. We would love to see you. Okay. Getting a lot of hellos. Hello, everybody. I'm going to go back through these comments, see if I missed anything. Oh, Renee, miss you too. Okay, so again, no live tomorrow. No Baby Lock Club tomorrow either. Okay, so, and then Thursday we'll be back to normal. Okay, I have a couple of jokes. Oh, okay, Nancy, thank you. Donna, I kind of almost said the same thing. I was like, oh, that's like a little bit closer to me. So yeah, it'll be a nice drive for sure. Okay, so it looks like FTCU was already taken care of for this month. So hopefully you guys were able to watch and join and had a fantastic time. It is not this Saturday. Okay, so a couple of jokes. Why do melons always get married in church? Because they cantaloupe. What do you call a person who runs behind a car? Exhausted. And that's a double funny. Double funny because obviously running after a car is going to wear you out. But then at the same time, you're like getting blasted with exhaust. So you're exhausted. And the other one isn't like a question joke, but singing in the shower is fun until you get soap in your mouth. Then it becomes a soap opera. Mo likes them at least. So, okay. I do have a giveaway. Thanks, Val. All right, I do have a giveaway. I'm giving away our cute little kitty with our ball of yarn here. This is going to go to Miss Mona Bolin. Alrighty, so we will have that here for you for the next time you are in. And then today's project. So I have this cute checkered, gosh, can't even see it. So big, a checkered pillow where we use burlap and some fabric for applique. All right, so that's going to be our project for today. I do have a kit. It is $17.50 and should be online. I even remember to like move all the products up to the top of the page, you guys. So let me know if you need a kit and let's get sewing. There's a lot to do for this project. And I did a little bit of pre-work here. Okay. Our first steps is to create our checkered background. All right. So I got some of it started. I did make a 9x9 checkered background for our base. Okay. So I got most of it started. They are 2.5-inch squares, and I will post instructions, but I just want to make sure that like the instructions I'm about to follow that I very quickly wrote down are going to match the actual steps. Once I've got it, my accuracy has been checked, then I'll post those instructions for you guys as well as the pumpkin template for you. Okay. But I just wanted to double check my wording, my math, all that jazz. Okay. So with that being said, I have 7 rows here and we need to add 2 more. One thing I will tell you, it is going to matter whether or not you do. So we have 9 rows. So you're going to obviously have 5 with one color and 4 with the other color and how it starts and ends. Okay. I liked having my background fabric be my very first corners. Just because it kind of like disappears into the background as opposed to this being an orange one. If you wanted to do that, you're going to need, so when you cut your 2.5-inch squares, you're going to need 40 of one color and 41 of the other. So if you're going to do orange squares in the corners, you want 41 orange squares and then 40 of the linen, or whatever. If you're not doing a kit, then whatever of your fabrics that you choose. But just remember that you're going to need one more than the other color of whatever color you're going to do in the corner. Okay? So, with that being said, let's flip you guys around so you guys can see the fun stuff. Okay, I'm working on our anthem today. I've got the extension table on. I think it's one of my favorite accessories that ever comes with a machine by far. Okay, so I've got 1 row almost done and 1 row kind of still needing to be pieced together. Okay, so this is how I started all of mine. I obviously work in pairs for the most part. That's just how my brain works. Okay, so I did a pair of each color together and then did 4 pairs, and I did that 9 times because that's 9 rows. And then once I sewed all of this together, then I just tacked on whatever the last remaining color needed to be, whether it was one that starts with orange or one that starts with the linen. Okay, so this is what the row is going to look like once it's all put together. And then I need to add whether these are going to be a linen row where it begins and ends with, or an orange row that it begins and ends with. Okay, so let's snip these apart. And then let's put them together. So, And this is why it went by super fast by just doing 8 or 9 of the rows exactly the same, and then just paying attention to whatever colored square needed to be added for that specific row. So that's one pair put together. We're going to put our other set together. Okay, we're going to snip this apart. Then we're going to put these together. Okay, and then we're going to determine whether or not they're going to start with orange or start with linen. All right, so I have 2 rows here that still need to be added. So let's see where we're at. Oops, I'm losing a bobbin here. Okay, so I have so these 2 rows are going to be, one needs to be added to the top, one needs to be added to the bottom. And I like it having the tan, this linen fabric in the corners of this base, because when I add the borders, then it kind of just blends into that. Okay, so I'm going to add a linen to the end of this one and a linen to the end of this one. And then I'm going to then attach those to the top, one to the top and one to the bottom, and then our checkerboard background will be complete. Okay, so let me find my little squares here to add. Okay, so snip these apart. I do want to press these, okay? And I want to make sure that when I place them down and I put them next to the rows we're about to add them onto, that they are opposites. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press these all in the same direction. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could press them like all towards the orange or all towards the linen, but there's so many squares that it was just so much easier to press all of the seam allowances the same way. And I just leaked a bunch of water. I think I overfilled the iron. Oops. Okay. So luckily it starts and stops with the same color. So if I just need to flip it around for seam allowances, I can do that. All right. So again, we're going to add them to the top and to the bottom. So what I'm looking for is that I want my seams to nest just like that for each one going down each intersection. So I will pay attention as soon as I get there for each one of those. If you wanted to use something like fork pins and pin them all before you start stitching, you most surely could do that. I'm kind of just one of those, like, lock them in place and all right, so that's one row on one side, and we're going to do the next row on the opposite side. And again, matching up those seams. All right, so now that the top and bottom rows are attached, I'm just going to press these. To make our checkerboard nice and flat. All right, on to the other row we just added. Getting water everywhere. Okay, so there is our 9x9 base, okay? So again, it just depends on which color you want in the corner. You could do orange, you could do the linen if you're doing a kit. But just remember, you're going to need one more. You need 81 squares total, but you're going to need 41 and 40 of the two different colors. Whatever color you have in the corner is what you're going to need for the one extra. Okie dokie. Now, once you have the base done, we have our burlap square. So, and mine's a little extra hairy right now. That's okay. And I am just going to center it inside, kind of in the middle here. Okay. And I'm going to, if you want it to be a thread color that stands out when we stitch it down, then this is when you would want to do that. I kind of just had mine blend into everything, so I'm still using the cream thread that I'm piecing with, but if you wanted it to stand out, you would want to change it now. Okay, I'm changing my needle to the left needle position, and I'm going to use the outside of my foot and kind of just follow around. I know my piece isn't quite pretty, but again, I'm going to fix that in towards the end here. So I'm not too worried about it. So I'm just going to stitch it down so that it doesn't move around on me. And I just made sure I was squared or centered to my checkered background, which it sort of is and it sort of isn't. So okay, so now that's tacked down. Fabulous. Now I have the shapes that I'm going to applique down. Whoops, not those. For my pumpkin. So I've already traced my shape onto Steam a Seam and I fused it to the back of my fabric. Now I'm going to cut my shapes out. And again, I will add this template to the live calendar for today as soon as I double check that my instructions are correct. All right, so once you have it fused to the back, that's when you actually cut on your line. Okay, when you're trimming it or, kind of cutting it out from just after tracing it on your Steam a Seam, that's when you want to give yourself that little bit of seam allowance. Not really seam allowance because you're not really sewing it, but when you do that, don't cut it directly on the line for when you're just cutting the paper itself. Because when you cut it straight from the line off of your fabric, then you know that the edges of your fabric are not like frayed or anything like that. They're nice and smooth. All right, so we've got 2 outside pieces to our pumpkin piece here. Then we have a center. Okay, and a cute little stem. Don't forget about him. All right, so I'm going to not peel my center part of my pumpkin just yet because I am just going to use him right now for placement purposes only. Okay, so hopefully you guys can all see that. All right, so I'm going to place this right in the middle. I do have the center checker because we have opposite or an odd number, right? So one whole checkered line is going to be our middle. So I do have him kind of centered within that line, but then I'm not going to fuse him down just yet because I want to put these underneath and I'm going to fuse those down first. Okay. I want the centerpiece and this is just me. If you want it to be more like this, I feel like doing it this way gives it more of that 3-dimensional in the right direction. Oops, I don't know why I put that away. All right, let's put this back. All right, and I'm going to tell you right now, most of this is just me eyeballing it. No specific measurements here. All right, and then to get my Steam-A-Seam started for peel, I can either kind of twist this just a little bit to where the paper gets scored and then start to peel it off, or you can use a pin and actually score it and then peel off that way, okay? But I want to get it all up in my, not like all up in my face, but I want to be able to see it better so I can make sure I'm only peeling off the paper and leaving the sticky on the fabric, and make sure I'm not peeling that off as well. So sorry that I took it away from you guys. Okay, so if this is here, then this is sort of kind of like right there. All right, luckily it's sticky, but also repositionable in case we don't like it. Not until we apply that heat. Okay, we're going to take our other pumpkin piece. And I'm not like overlapping them like crazy. It's just a barely there overlap. And I can grab the template and I'll kind of explain why that is. And you know what? Not all pumpkins are the same. If one little piece of it is wonky, who's gonna know? Okay, so now I'm gonna peel this guy. And stick this piece down, covering the inside curves of our outer sections. Okay, stick, and I feel like our pumpkin is getting a little crooked. So this is the beauty part of Steam-A-Seam. It is repositionable until you officially fuse it. So there we go. Okay, had to fix a little bit of crookedness. Okay, so that's where I like my 3 segments of our pumpkin here. And then I've got my little stem. And normally doing this applique, I would like build from the bottom up. So I would have like stitched around these 2 because they're underneath this piece. And then I would have made sure the stem would have been stitched down before, or, you know, like you build underneath up. But my applique stitching is just some little straight stitching, so I'm not really worried about that really like at all. Okay, so then stick our stem in there. Okay, so I like how that looks. Again, it's repositionable until we add the heat. So if you're not liking something or need to tweak anything, now's the time to do it. I do like how ours looks right now though, so I am going to go ahead and fuse them down onto our burlap. Okay. All right, heat has been applied, so we are on there. Okay, so I did use a black thread for our stitching, so I'm going to change that. And if you wanted to give your background piece some stability, I'm kind of testing it out now, and I can let you know. When I did the first sample and when I was done with the checkered piece, I put the Baby Lock fabric fuse behind it. It does give the front just a little bit more oomph, I guess. Not really like loftiness, but just gives it some stability. And I did like how that was when I stitched like the burlap down and the applique. I did not do it this time just so I could see if that really made a difference and I could let you guys know. So we'll see how that goes. All right, putting black thread on. So if you wanted to put the fabric fuse on, or SF101, or maybe even like Ultra Soft or something like that, I probably would have done it before I put the burlap down. Okay, so I'm going to put my needle in all the way over to the right. I'm going to use the edge of my fabric on the edge of my foot, and I'm just... Actually, not the edge of my foot. I lied. So I have the edge of my fabric running along this inside part here with my J-foot. Just a really scant edge of the fabric kind of tack as I go around the curve, okay? And again, it's not meant to look perfect. So if I'm a little wonky in my stitching, I think that would be just fine. Gives our pumpkins character, right? So. All right, and I'm stopping before I get to that center section, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and trim my thread there. Okay, we're going to move over to our next section. Do the same thing. Again, stopping before I get to the middle section. I don't want to stitch onto that with these outer sections. And then once the two outsides are done, I'm going to go around the whole middle section. And then that ends up also tacking down the outside sections underneath. Hey, Mo. Would you mind handing me that pumpkin paper that's on the other cutting table to your right?
The pumpkin? The piece?
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so this is the template that I gave you guys. Obviously, I didn't really do anything with these, but if you wanted to stitch those in, that'd be super cute. But I traced each of these as their own drawing onto the steam seam, and I followed the very outside of the thick line here, and then the same thing, I followed like the outside part coming into these curves, and then when I did the middle section, I kind of followed this side of that chunky line, and then that gave me just a little bit of overlap, so that way when I stitched down here, I was stitching the section underneath it. So that just really makes sure that everything is tacked down. And with doing such a close to the edge stitch here, you kind of, again, make sure that you get everything. All right, so there is our pumpkin. Now we can go across the stem also. Or around the stem, I guess, not across. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes those stems are real weird. Okay? All right, so our pumpkin is now tacked down. Now, finishing this up is kind of going to be a little bit on your own discretion. So, I, for whatever reason, thought that our pillow inserts were a different size. For whatever reason, I had 20 inches in my head. So, I had to make sure that I gave us enough border. Well, then I put the pillow in there and I was like, oh no, they're 18 inches. So your checkered background, it becomes, the checkered background unfinished with the raw edges on the outside is 18.5. And you probably could stuff the Kimberbell 18-inch pillow form in there. So that way, if you wanted to, if you add these borders like I'm about to, you could probably, because I definitely have room on each side of the pillow, stitch in the ditch here, which is what I'm going to do for this sample. So, I'm going to add top, bottom, side borders. And then when we attach the backing, I'm going to stitch in the ditch and create the borders as a cute little flange. Okay. So, I used the standard stitch length. So it came up to 2, which is what the machine defaulted to. I'm on the quilting menu though. So, that could affect that. Let's see if I change it to utility. Yeah, it does default to 2.5. So, if you're wanting it to be a little bit on the tighter side, then either change it to 2, or if you're on the Baby Locks, go through your quilting menu because that will automatically change that. All right. So top bottom borders, you need 18.5 inches. And these are 2.5 inch strips. So 2.5 by 18.5 should get you across the top and bottom. And then when you go ahead and do your side, those ones are going to be 22. Make sure you change back to your 1/4 inch. And I'm actually not going to stitch this part in black thread. Call me crazy. I'm going to put my cream back on. Okay, so top and bottom borders. There's one. Flip this around. Okay, so then I'm going to press these away from our center fabric. I'm going to lose this bobbin that I keep snagging on accident and throwing around. Okay. Mary, to be honest, I have no clue. I guess I saw something that gave me inspiration with the burlap, and I said, sure, why not? Let's try it. I would say with, if you're going to do like the fabrics or the colors that I chose, I would probably still put something underneath, because I don't know if this color would pop enough right against the checkerboard. You might lose the pumpkin a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to press these borders out. And then we'll add our side borders. And again, if you wanted to, either if you already had or wanted to create a pillow form to make this become a larger pillow, then adding the borders and then adding the backing and you're done. But we're going to take it just a step further. Okay, so let's do side side. And of course, I cut everything just a little bit bigger than needed. So I probably should chop off what's extra. Some days the laziness just wins. Okay, so we're adding side borders. All right, so let's press these. Pamela, I am right there with you. I've already kind of been like, that thought has already gone through my mind too. If you do them, you should post them on our Facebook page so I can see them. Okay, so now that we are nice and flat, we're gonna go up to the cutting table really quick. I'm going to just make sure we're all squared up, and then we're gonna cut our backing piece. I'm gonna cover you up so I can walk faster. All right, let's see here. I have to say, I've kind of made quite the mess on this cutting table. Okay, so let's just make sure we're at 22. If we were straight, we would be beautiful. Okay, so then I'm going to take some backing fabric. Let's cut that. So I did want to make sure that my backing, I'm just kind of doing an envelope fold, but I want to make sure there's enough overlap so that a pillow form is nice and secure in there. So I'm going to cut my pieces so that they are 22 inches, which is the dimension of our pillow cover, but I'm going to make each of the envelope back pieces 16 inches. Yeah, 22. And you guys will have plenty of fabric for all of this. All right. Okay, so I want it to be 16. And your instructions will be a little bit different for this cutting piece. I just cut my batting off the bolt, so that's kind of why it looks the way it does. Okay, so let's take it over to our iron. I'm going to double fold 1/4 of an inch 2 times, and then we're going to stitch that. Sorry for the up close visual here. Just trying to make it so that we can move quickly. Turn you guys this way so you're facing the right direction here. Okay. Okay, so for each backing piece on one side, on one 22-inch side, I'm going to fold 1/4 of an inch and press, and then do that one more time so that way we have a nice finished edge, and then we're actually going to top stitch those down. So that's once and then twice. Okay, I'm going to set that one aside. We're going to do the same thing for the other piece here. All right. Take these now and our pillow. And I'm going to cover you so I can walk. And we're gonna top stitch those 2 folds down. Okay. You're gonna do that for both. All right, then let me find a spot where I can kind of lay this stuff out here real quick. Okay, so I'm going to lay out my pillow top. Let me do this real quick and then I can show you. Where did it go? Oh, behind the machine. Always look there.
I know that I know he was planning on it. He's got we've got the training tomorrow for Viking, and then they're setting up for the show. So he's not forgetting about you. I know that. But I didn't want you to think I was ignoring. It's just that after Patrick talked to Cindy, I said, "What do you want to do with the birds? Probably stay out of it now. Let them do it. So meaning, don't be inundated with calls." So that's why I didn't.
Okay, so I laid the pillow top right side up, put my 2 pieces of backing right side down with my double folds towards the center, not lined up on the outside. Okay, and then I'm going to pin all the way around so that it all stays in place while we sew it all together.
Okay, alrighty. Do you know the supplies? Like, do you have the roll of the stuff? Okay. Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm wanting to make sure I'm not pinning these too close to the edge because I want to leave room for my presser foot.
That's okay. I could probably look it up. Is it like a, what do you call it? A thing, a binding tool or something?
last side here. Okay, so then now I'm going to go all the way around at 1/4 inch. And close up this guy. Then we have just a couple more things to do and our pillow shall be done. All right, let's turn you guys back around. Sorry for all the flip-flopping. All right, make sure you change your foot or your stitch back to your 1/4 inch. And where the backings kind of overlap, I'm just making sure I reinforce there because it's probably going to be the first place that's going to pop a stitch if you are overstuffing it or anything like that with the pillow form. Okay, so let's take out all these pins. We're gonna flip our pillow around. And then I will show you a couple options on ways to fix it or finish it. So if you want to do the flange, which I think is the way that I'm going to end up finishing this one. And I told you I would tell you my opinions about having the fabric fuse behind the checkerboard, and I think I would definitely do that. This one's just a little flimsy for my liking without having that back there. All right, so just poking out my corners here. Okay, so obviously you would want to press it nice and flat. Okay. And if you wanted to do the flange, you're just going to stitch in the ditch right around the border of your checkered background. Okay, and that will leave this all nice and loose and be super cute as a flange border. And then when it comes to the burlap, and so I said don't worry about this part. So right here is kind of where my stitching is to where I tacked the burlap down. And you can actually just come through here and pick all of this out. And I just have a pin that I'm doing that with. If you have like a stiletto, anything like that. Okay, so you can just kind of pull all those pieces out. And then if you have like more on one side rather than the other, you can obviously like, you know, kind of trim it down to where it looks sort of even all the way around. But I'm just going to keep pulling until something was caught in my stitches. But I'm not throwing away those pieces just yet. And I will show you why. Okay, so I found a piece that was in my stitching. Trying to figure out how to get you guys down here so you can see it. All right, let's see here. Hopefully. Okay, so this piece here is stitched down in this side, but burlap's kind of, there's no way to really get that green like straight. So where it gets stitched in, I'm just going to turn it off. Okay, and then just keep going around and keep pulling. And again, I'm not throwing away my little pieces of burlap just yet. If I'm doing, can probably get rid of the ones that are like I'm trimming off, but any of the ones that are full pieces, I'm not getting rid of. This is like an almost no waste project, and I love it. Okay, so I think on this side, I'm gonna have less of the burlap like fringe on the outside. So on this side where I think it's longer, I'm just gonna kind of take my scissors and trim it up to where it's pretty much even. And you also don't have to do this step either. I just know that if I took this home, I would probably be picking at this, or somebody in my house would be probably picking at it. And it would happen inevitably anyways. So, okay, so then you have all of these little pieces right here. I'm going to turn you guys around so I can see what you're seeing to make sure I show you right. Okay, so I have all of these pieces here, which I'm going to try and get sort of kind of maybe around the same side, like all the edges lined up here. And if they're not all the same length, it's okay. Maybe not something that short though. Okay, so then I've got this cute little bundle here. I'm just going to pull them together, create two little loops here. Whoops, come back. Two loops, and basically we're going to create a bow so that it looks super like, I don't know any other word to describe it, but raw. Okay, and if you like kind of make your bow and you're like, that's way too much, then just undo it, take a couple of the strands out. Okay, and then you can make your cute little bow. And then, of course, I would hot glue it. Okay, onto your pumpkin like that. Trim up the little tail so that you're kind of more even, and you've got a cute fall pillow. Alrighty. Well, hopefully you all enjoyed, and thanks you guys. Again, friendly reminder that tomorrow there is no live and no Baby Lock Club. The Baby Lock Club got pushed to next week, next Wednesday, and we will see you on Thursday, either Paula or Kate or Christine, somebody will. And hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you again next Tuesday. Alrighty, thanks. Bye-bye.